Okay. All right, everybody. Hi, everybody. I'm Dennis Stoik with Monitor Warriors. Welcome back for another amazing podcast, right, in our series of integrated warrior training, where we're always bringing on people that matter to me the most, that are doing some, sometimes all or more of what we do, right? That reality-based self-defense, functional fitness, yoga and Pilates, grappling or striking, firearms and shooting, nutrition, etc. You name it, right? All this great stuff, like performance coaching too, that I did not say, right? Some type of coaching, life type coaching, performance coaching, etc. Right? That we incorporate into who we are. And today, we are so lucky to have a very good friend of mine for many years that's local here on with us today, Rafael Cano, a federal law enforcement officer for a massive many years, a career already, just like myself, right? But in addition to the federal law enforcement career, spanning multiple agencies, right? Multiple agencies. I'll let him talk about where he's been and what he's done, right? Also, an NRA coach, counselor, and trainer to extensive certifications, way more than me even with the NRA, and been around with some friends that Rafael and I know that brought us into the mix a little bit too in the NRA. And Rafael, I'll kick it over to you. And I'm going to go with the first question, so you can add to that intro, right? But who is Rafael, and what is your purpose, passion, and principles? Go for it.
Well, Dennis, first, I'd like to thank you for having me. This is just an outstanding honor to be on your podcast. I've known you for quite some time, as you mentioned. I hold you in high esteem for what you do in the community and your law enforcement career, and as a personal friend and professional colleague in the FBI and myself in the U.S. Border Patrol. I think that you have the highest level of integrity, and that's why I only try to stick around with people that I can trust, that I believe in, and I know that are always doing the right thing for this nation. And you are, and so am I. So thank you for having me on your podcast. A great honor. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to your family and friends, as well as your colleagues that may be out there listening to us and watching us today.
Absolutely. So, yeah. Those are all the warriors, those modern warriors out there.
Yes, sir.
Rafael, thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah. So great honor. So thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Rafael Cano. I've been in law enforcement my entire adult life. I started when I was 19 years old in San Diego with San Diego County Sheriffs, and progressed through the different organizations. Even worked at a California State University Police and ultimately criminal courts in San Diego, and then eventually ended up in the Border Patrol in the deserts of California. And then 9/11 hit us, and I had a extensive liking of firearms. I guess you could say I enjoyed shooting. I learned from another Marine.
Yes.
A Marine named Matthew Briggs, who was a Marine, and he was in the Border Patrol with me, and he had mentored me in firearms quite a bit. And eventually, when 9/11 happened, I saw myself standing up and taking that opportunity to go help be a part of the fight. So I joined the Federal Air Marshal Service in 2002, post 9/11. Served there for 4 years in Charlotte, North Carolina. That was very pivotal in my background in firearms and reality-based training, because everything we do over there is reality-based. The training that we do is all hands-on. You have a gun in your hand essentially every other week in training, as opposed to most law enforcement agencies where you qualify once a quarter, in some parts of the United States, once a year.
Some places, Rafael, once a year, and right. I've worked with them. NYPD, we used to take them shooting anytime we went to the range for the FBI. Ask them, hey, you guys want more shooting? Come on out with us, right? Because they shoot once a year.
Right, exactly. And I was amazed to find that out. I thought everyone qualified like the Border Patrol every quarter. No, and that's not the case. I was amazed when I went to Washington State and found out it's once a year in Washington State too. And any extra training they get, it's on their own, so to speak. So yeah, I was very honored to be a Federal Air Marshal in Charlotte, North Carolina for 4 years. I missed my green uniform though, and decided that I wanted to come back to the U.S. Border Patrol, and ended up in Nogales, Arizona for about a year, working down on the southern border again, and transferred up to the Pacific Northwest, where then I was accidentally introduced to the NRA. I've always wondered about the NRA, and then one day I went to, because I'm also a hunter, fisherman. And so I went to go becoming a Washington State hunter education instructor.
And for those that don't know, right, that maybe they're not educated so much on their NRA, right? The NRA does a lot of stuff, right? They promote Second Amendment rights. They're into hunting. They're into sport shooting. They're into collectibles, right? It's got a lot of different reasons why someone might join the NRA.
And self-defense.
And yes, and of course self-defense. What we do and promote here, sure.
So yeah, I ran into a senior training counselor named Maxwell Cooper up there. He happened to be a U.S. Army plastic surgeon doctor during the Vietnam era, fixing up guys coming back from the war. Became a senior training counselor, and then I partnered up with him as my partner in the class, accidentally, and I really enjoyed how he really stuck with safety. Safety was always really important to him. And I got to be honest, police officers we're safe, right? But when I was introduced to the NRA's way of thinking, the safety, everything's safety related, I started realizing that even us as law enforcement officers, we sometimes we assume a lot. I guess I'll put it that way about safety.
Sure. I want to keep us on task here, though, right? So today too, because I try to keep the podcast to 30 minutes, so people can have an edible 30-minute, little show in front of them too. So, anything else on your credentials, right? And purpose, passion, principles before we get too sideways.
So basically, I ended up out here. I transferred out here to the Advanced Training Center here at Harpers Ferry, West Virginia. I became a firearms instructor out here too. I specialize in emergency management, but I also became a firearms instructor here after becoming an NRA instructor up in the Pacific Northwest. Lucky enough, you and I both ended up with another Marine, Larry Quandal, Rudy DeFore,
and Rudy.
Both who wrote these programs. And I have been mentoring under Larry Quandal for quite some time, ever since I got to this area in 2013. Became an NRA training counselor, I train instructors in all disciplines, all the way from firearms safety at the lowest level, home firearms safety, to refuse to be a victim, and everything in between, which includes rifle, pistol, shotgun, personal protection in the home, outside the home, defensive pistol, and the NRA's CCW course, which is the most recent entry into the defensive.
A lot of great stuff, right? So whether it's handgun, long gun, programs that are just talking, programs that are just gun safety, where you're not shooting, and programs where you're actually going to the range to shoot. So.
Yes, sir.
Rafael, anything about your purpose, passion, and principles about life? Anything else specific? Obviously, we know that career law enforcement officer. Anything else you want to add for purpose, passion in your life, principles?
I got to say that that's a great question, Dennis, because I'm still trying to find myself, right?
Cool.
As a person, as a human being. And one of the things I can tell you is that I want to leave my kids with the mindset that this is the greatest nation in the world, and we have to protect that. And
awesome.
So part of doing that is reminding ourselves that we have.
And this is work too, right? So it's okay. In my coaching, in our performance coaching, this is something that we actually work on. The question that I have for everyone that I coach is, what is your purpose, passion, and principles, right? And we coach people through what's important to them, right? And what is their purpose in life, and different passions that they have, and then principles that make up who they are. A lot of what I've heard from you, even though you might be not directly saying it, you just stated what your principles are in life. So we're going to move on for time, though, right? Why should someone consider firearms training with a certified instructor and or a career law enforcement officer agent, right, versus a friend or family member? Hey, man, I've been shooting for years. Just come to the range with me when I go.
Yeah, so that.
And I'm saying that as the friend or family member, not Dennis Stoica, the career law enforcement and instructor also, right?
So one of the things that I've learned along the way as an NRA instructor and training counselor is that, you do have that family member that wants to show you and that sort of thing. But what I can say is that professional instruction, professionally developed training that starts at the crawl, walk, run approach, usually utilizes the crawl, walk, run approach, lesson plans that are well developed, that actually look at human performance and have studied how people learn things from the beginning to high level advanced skills, is the best way to approach firearms training. Because I've realized that people that knew things and arrived at the range because someone at their family taught them something had training scars.
Yeah,
and these training scars.
And I want to add to what you said. You talked about the programs being like tried and true, right? But the programs are not only tried and true, but then they're what? repeated again and again and again, tens of thousands of times, because of guys like you
Oh, yeah.
and me that are also instructors training people, right? And so not only are the programs proven, but they're proven results on everybody that's out there that you and I and others are training to.
Correct. And the NRA has been around since, a long time. Well,
Yeah.
we're talking, we started training people in 1871. That was the whole purpose of the NRA, is to train, because our military was unfortunately failing as marksmen.
Mhm.
The people that were out there, the soldiers, were
Yep.
not that good as shooters. We think we're good shooters, but in reality we weren't. And so the NRA began as a training organization and developed itself into, civilian training, all the way through firearms training for law
Mhm.
enforcement professionals. And ultimately, we've got 13,000 NRA firearms police instructors, and we've got, over 125,000 certified NRA instructors that teach approximately 1 million gun owners a year in firearms, all the way from basics all the way to the advanced skills.
Mhm.
So yeah, this is an organization that's been around forever and probably will remain forever. The way
Yeah.
things, everyone's trying to erode away our rights, but training is something they'll never take away from the NRA.
One of the things I always tell people too, Rafael, is that, and it depends on the age, but if a young adult is in high school and they're working through getting their driver's license, almost every high school out there has a program that somebody goes through. You get so many hours in the classroom, so many hours at the wheel, right? And you eventually go get your driver's license. So, you can take the approach of, I don't need that. Maybe I'm 18, 19. You don't have to. You can just go take your test and you can and drive a car, right? Go take, whether you take that written test and that driving test, right? Same thing with a firearm, right? You can go buy one and you can carry it and shoot it, right? But there's zero training associated with that. So I love to tell people too, like, just because you maybe been learning because dad taught you or somebody else, and that's cool. You might have that underneath your belt, but have you ever again taken that official firearms training, right? For that safety, that basics, and conversations and questions that, again, that proven system, right, has developed on. This is what's important to be in a program that talks about personal safety in the home or personal safety outside the home as well, too, right?
Mhm.
Awesome. Let's move on. What advice do you have for, and you can pick one, you don't have to hit all three, but if you want to hit something for everybody real quick, if we can run through it, you can. But what do you have for the beginner shooter? What advice do you have for the beginner shooter, women, since there's special women programs, young adults, or police military?
Well, first of all, get professional training. I believe in that. Of course, I'm a professional trainer, and so are you. I believe in getting professional training because it's well developed, structured, and allows for that crawl, walk, run approach that gets us to higher level training progressively, right? And of course, safety. Safety in terms of the
Mhm.
NRA, the three main NRA safety rules, which are always keep the gun pointed in a safe direction, always keep your finger off the trigger until ready to shoot, and always keep the gun unloaded until ready to use. If you follow those three rules as a student of the gun,
Mhm.
you will never have a mishap or issue or accident
Mhm.
of some type. So I really have kind of take issue with these accidents that people talk about that could be easily avoided if people follow these three rules.
Mhm.
The other thing is I'll say is that slow is smooth and smooth is fast. If you
Yep.
take that progressive baby step approach and you build on every single skill and you perfect each one, taking the mindset that perfect practice is perfect training, and the more you practice, the smoother you practice, the slower you practice, the more you build that neuromuscular
Mhm.
connection with the brain and the muscle itself, right? So that you can function each individual skill into a string of skills that ultimately becomes that action you're taking as a student. And then one last final thing is stick-to-itiveness. And you as a Marine probably know that very well. You probably heard that before. Chesty Puller used to say that quite a bit, right? Chesty Puller talked about stick-to-itiveness. What is it that we need to do to be good at something? Have stick-to-itiveness.
I'm
Do
going
it.
to start singing. Chesty Puller was a Grand Marine. What a Grand Marine was he? He come first 5, he come first 4, he come first Sergeant 3. Here's to the private. I can go on.
Anything you stick to, do it with discipline. Do it with
Um,
the mindset that
mhm.
perfect practice makes perfect, right?
So I'm going to jump in again too, right, for that training. So a lot of people may have been around too for whatever. I was in the service, right? Hey, yeah, Raphael, I was in the service. I don't need your training, blah blah blah, right? But you know, in martial arts, or even whether it's the self-defense or the fitness, right? I tell all my students, and even me to this day, the basics are what makes or breaks the individual. Get good at the basics and do those well, right? Again and again, repeatable. And you could continue to add, but I know I have some friends that are also in the business of some of what I do for self-defense and fitness and firearms, right?
Mhm.
And I've been to some of their programs, and they got these people like mom and dads like leapfrogging each other, right, to go into like a door tactically. And I'm like,
Yeah.
that's fun maybe for the day, but that's not helping you. Like, that's what you and I might do to go into a home, making an entry to certain things, right? But the average person doesn't need that, right? It's the basics of firearm safety, understanding maybe what type of handgun is needed and ammunition is needed, and other things we can do around the house, right? So we're going to get into some of that as we move on to some additional questions. Anything else for maybe one other person, the women, police, military, etc.?
No, I think the important thing is to keep in mind safety always, like as I mentioned, and just continuing to be an excellent student of the gun, and understanding, situational awareness, building on that, and reminding yourself that really avoidance, avoiding trouble, is probably one of the best things you can do to prepare yourself.
I'm going to throw one out there though, and call out all our fellow law enforcement officers and agents in the country, right? You got to go to the range and train on your own.
Yeah.
You can't go quarterly by yourself or bi-monthly or whatever it is. You got to get as much training in yourself and get some variety and work other things that your agency is not working too, right?
Right.
So I'll call that out because it's reality.
Become part of a range. Go out and practice a little bit. Get a 22. I know ammunition is very expensive. I believe that fundamentals, what you would do with your regular service firearm, if you can't afford to get extra ammunition, get a 22, and that's similar to your own gun that you carry.
Sure.
Practice with that 22. Get a cert gun. Practice with a laser gun. Drawing, concealing.
And you can even do dry firing safely at home or wherever too.
Safe direction. Yep.
What does someone need to do to develop the basics? Examples, right, might be, gun safety rules, proper operation of revolvers or semi-automatics, right? It could be ammunition knowledge and selection, pistol selection, storage, shooting fundamentals, right? Maintenance, marksmanship, shooting range safety. Those are just some things that I kind of wrote down. What does someone need to do to develop the basics?
Well, I hate to keep hitting the training, professional training aspect of this, but the conversation is real. These programs are developed in such a way that you do cover all of those bases you just mentioned, because you start out at the ground base and understanding safety first. Then you start to understand the manipulation of the firearm, the nomenclature of all the parts of the gun, and then you work your way through until you're actually doing advanced skills. So taking professional training and looking at the NRA programs that are out there, all the way from basic to advanced level skills, is a really important step, I think.
And again, I don't care whether you're law enforcement, military, whether you're Rafael or whether you're Dennis, right? So it comes back to even you and me and any other FBI agent, Border Patrol person, right? Anybody. It comes back to some basics too, because maybe, I don't know, maybe you're a pretty good shot. Maybe you got a 98 out of 100 today and you flew one, right? And that might come because I don't have enough thumb pressure on one side of the gun or whatever, right? Too much trigger pull, whatever it might be, right? So coming back to those basics and working on trigger pull, sight alignment, sight picture, right? Breath work, stance, etc., right? All come back to being able to be better when we go from that crawl phase, the basics crawl phase, to the walk phase, and maybe put some movement into us, right? Making sure that we're drawing from the holster eventually for our concealed carry, right? But it all starts with the basics of the fundamentals of shooting as well.
Proper platform, understanding, that trigger press, that alignment, sight picture, trigger press, and how all of those things connect are really important. Going back to my experience as an air marshal, that's one of the things that people think, okay, air marshals are, they have to qualify 90%. Okay.
Yeah. And by the way, everybody, Rafael's a pretty amazing shot.
Embarrassing, man. So no, but that's they continually revisit those basics on the way. You may be an air marshal for 3 years and had shot the qualification course at 90% every single time, but one of the things they do on a regular basis is always revisit the basics.
Yeah.
Slow,
Right.
So
We're gonna move for time. What does someone need to do to develop basic defensive shooting skills? Right, defensive shooting skills, not the basics anymore. That I'm actually at the range now. Right, I'm working on that. The fundamentals of shooting, some of what we just already discussed. Right, but home safety now, like responding to a violent confrontation, perhaps. Right, maybe understanding firearms and the law. And again, maybe even choosing that different gun for self-defense. One gun that I might want to use at the range, like you said, to save on ammo and learn fundamentals of shooting, but now understanding what is the best gun maybe for me for self-defense in the home or self-defense carrying even outside the home, right? Might be a different choice too.
Yeah, so as I go back to the training again, the NRA does have beyond the basics. They have the personal protection in the home course and the personal protection outside the home, the defensive pistol module, and the NRA course. Those are all progressively building toward advanced level skills. But going back to the home, as you mentioned, right? They cover that. Hey, what kind of a gun? What are the safety issues that you have to deal with in a home, as well as legal post-incident issues that you have to deal with? So they have a legal brief. In fact, I teach that legal brief for Larry Quandao quite often, several times a year. I go over there and I explain the legal consequences that you have to kind of think about when you're going through a defensive shooting post-incident, whether it be at home or outside of the home. Really important things. And most importantly, we teach preparation, mental and physical.
Yes. Start to have that discussion with yourself.
And being honest with yourself about what you're not doing or should be doing, and as well as avoidance techniques through having situational awareness, having that head on a swivel constantly, understanding the environment that you're in every single place, whether it be at the mall or a sidewalk on a street somewhere, and of course sinking to that level of your training. Everyone thinks they're going to rise to the occasion.
No, you sink to the level. It's reality, right? We always love, and it's a great saying, we rise to the level, right, of our training, but you really sink to the level of your training.
Not real. I've seen people
say rise to the occasion, right? And look, maybe you do rise to the occasion, but the reality is, right, and this is how I train too, right? You will sink to the level of your training.
Absolutely.
Right? Or you will rise to the level of your training. One of the things I love about the programs that you and I teach too, right? The NRA program being progressive, right? You go from the basic fundamentals of shooting, and when you're at the range for that first course, the gun's out in front of you. You're learning how to actually grab the gun in your hand appropriately, have a second hand join the gun, right? And then when you're in the home, maybe you pick it up from your safe or your bed, right? One of the things I love about the NRA and Rafael and me here too, right? Storing your gun is very individual, whether you have kids or no kids, right? Whether you have an alarm on your house or no, or whatever, right? It's different for everybody. But what I love, what I really want to get to here is that you start to work on tactics, kneeling, right? Shooting from like barricade position, maybe leaning out your bathroom down a hallway and stuff like that, right? So you start to work on tactics after you get good at just shooting, right, in that nice tight hole as best as we can, right? And then we talk about kneeling position, barricade position, etc. too. So we're building their skill level, right?
Absolutely,
building the skill level. And then you have someone, right? The next question, right? What does someone need to develop that KSA, right? The knowledge, skills, and attitude, right? That are essential for avoiding dangerous confrontations, right? And for the safe, effective, responsible use, right, of a concealed carry permit, perhaps, right, for self-defense outside the home, whether that be concealed carry suggestions, drawing perhaps from a holster or a purse, right? Yeah, I'm going to tell everybody, I love making fun of it, right? I have a purse. I have a couple purses. I know Rafael does too, right? Because we teach people, women that carry purses, right, how to draw properly again. So go learn that one from someone who hasn't gotten training specific, right? Very, very specific, very cool on being able to keep your gun in the purse and be able to draw and shoot even through the purse if you had to, by the way.
Safely and effectively, correct.
Yeah. So what else you got for everybody? The knowledge, skills, and attitude, right, outside the home. A couple points that are very, very key.
So really important, again, that mental, physical preparation is extremely important in this realm. The NRA programs are built to help you, but I want to put this out that, outside of the NRA, you should become a student of the gun, right? So I'm an instructor trainer, etc. But I also go to additional training anytime it's available to me to help understand firearms better, armor, and a variety of different firearms. One of the great things about the NRA programs also is that you can bring your own gun to the class and you can learn your own gun, and we teach you how to clean it in the class too. So
Mhm.
you don't just learn how to shoot it, you learn how to actually manipulate it, how to load it, unload it, shoot with it, shoot
Mhm.
tactically with it eventually someday, when you get to that higher level where you start
Mhm.
tactics and different positions, and you're starting to actually work through some self-defense techniques, but also how to clean that gun, right? So I
Mhm.
mean, it's important that we look at the programs as progressively as you said, but having that mindset then transitions you into outside of the NRA, a variety of different courses that are out there. There are all kinds of phenomenal trainers that come from law enforcement,
Yeah.
security services of some type, and they've got extensive experience. They're bringing back, and it's good to kind of pick their brain and grab from their training bank and add it to your training bank so that you can then someday make that withdrawal if you have to someday.
And I refer to that too, right? We train, right, to be safe, and I train to put money in the bank
Hmm.
for perhaps the day that I actually have to make a withdrawal. A couple things I want to add, maybe it's outside the house, right? Is knowing your target and what's behind it, huge when we're outside the house. Also important for in the home too, but even more so probably for being outside
Absolutely.
the house, right? And
Yep.
understanding, right, if someone shoots someone, you're going to go through a lot of emotion. You might have elation, then you might have where you start to second guess yourself on did I have to, so you're going to go through a lot of different emotions, and you're also going to be possibly arrested, most likely arrested,
Mhm.
and you're going to have people forever and a day start to question you.
Yep.
Did you have to do it? He killed somebody, or she killed somebody, perhaps, right? And you have to live with those types of things too, and we discuss those types of things, right, ahead of time.
Yeah, and you should protect yourself. There are all sorts of different insurance
Insurance.
that could help you with
Yep.
a post incident. We know what the attorneys go come in,
Mhm.
and you're completely covered to
Yeah.
also when I say completely covered, be aware of what level of coverage you have, and
Yeah.
understand your laws in your state. There's a famous saying that I have, right? DYR.
Yes, I do. Go
Do
ahead.
do your research, right?
Yep.
You have to do your research in every state that you're in. And we happen to be in a phenomenal state for firearms carry, the state of West Virginia. It's a constitutional state, so you can essentially have your firearm on you or hidden on you or hidden in your vehicle, in a safe place, right? Of course.
Mhm.
And then, and you could, in this state, it's great. Plus, if you have a concealed carry in the state, a concealed handgun permit that you got from the state, if you're a resident, you can then, there are tons of states with reciprocity that
Yep.
will allow you to traverse their
And
state.
that's a big question that we get constantly as instructors, right? And West Virginia has one of the best reciprocity, uh, among other states out there. So if you actually get your certification right from West Virginia, it applies to, I don't know, good Lord, it's like second to Utah or whatever. It's the huge number of states. So
Yeah.
all right, we're gonna move for time because we're like we're pushing up against the 30
Yes, sir.
minutes already. So, what are your thoughts for those who believe they only need to carry a gun to protect themselves, right, and their loved ones, or even law enforcement or military personnel, right, versus learning other self-defense, de-escalation techniques, etc.
Well,
Rafael, I got my gun. That's all I need.
no, I like to hear that because it's also flawed thinking in law enforcement that, oh, just shoot them.
Yep.
No, it doesn't work that way. A gun is a tool of last resort. Avoidance is your number one tool. Your
Yep.
brain. One of my mottos of my business is my firearms business is, train the brain. It is your weapon. And so when you train your brain and make it your weapon, you're a thinking human being. That is the most dangerous thing that exists. A thinking human being that's thinking through problems, solving problems, and moving through the problem world that we live in every single day. This dangerous world that we don't rise to occasions, we sink to them, right? So
You got it.
getting training, getting the right mental preparation, physical preparation, and going to trainers like yourself for empty hand techniques, because that's probably what's going to happen first. You may be grabbed, you may be shoved down, you may be kicked, you may be hit with something. You need to learn how to take a hit and then hit back, and
Mhm.
then if need to, right?
And Raphael, it's not something that I teach people first, but we teach people how to defend themselves from knives with guns in their hand.
Yeah, I know exactly. So you
Mhm.
have to learn how to
Yeah,
manipulate various
all kinds
tools,
of stuff.
various incident type situations you're going to run into.
All right.
The scenario based training that you do on a daily basis is phenomenal. So thank you.
We got 3:30, so I have one last question for you. Try to wrap it up as quick as you can, please. But you've assisted the NRA, other NRA instructors like myself, and our friends that we have around the area here, right? You've had your own firearms and shooting business in the past that you've put a good bit of effort in too. Some of that's come and gone a little bit with other things that you do for your career also. Retirement could be soon, a little bit. You never know, right? And so what's the future of Rafael Cano and the Unified Command Group? What would you love to see? How would you like to see you take your business? You've shared some of that with me. Go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to be retiring in a year. So 12 months will come by real quick. So keeping that in mind, I plan to taking this out to probably 4 different locations across the United States and working closely with active and retired law enforcement and military personnel and getting them to start their own firearms training businesses so they can, after retirement or even while they're active, do something on the side that's benefiting our community, protecting our Second Amendment rights, and also giving them the self-satisfaction of helping people in general, because that's really ultimately what I want to do, is help people and leave things better than I found them.
And one of the things that's awesome, Rafael, and I was going to say this earlier with something you said, so I'm glad you kind of came back around to it too, right? I say this in my book, by the way. My chapter in my book on firearms and shooting starts off something like, everybody has their own opinion already about firearms and shooting. And some of the people that maybe have a negative, whatever that might be, not in favor of handguns, I would ask too, have you ever gone to a handgun course?
A lot haven't.
No, they haven't. They haven't tried. That's like saying no to something without trying it.
Correct.
Nope. I'm not, like, I don't eat that. Well, you didn't even try it. Or I automatically put salt on it and I haven't tasted it. Right. Mm-hmm. So I don't like handguns. They're dangerous. And what's kind of a saying, right? Is a handgun dangerous?
It's a tool.
It's a tool. Right. It's a tool. Like a hammer.
Yeah. So keeping that in mind, just know that we have to be stewards, not just of American stewards of the Second Amendment, but frankly, safety, security, and then it's a right of self-defense that goes back to the caveman days. Yeah. We have to protect our families, ourselves. We have a right to come home every day to our families and to our loved ones. And so I really want to thank you for the opportunity to talk to your family, friends, and your colleagues here on this podcast.
Rafael, I want to thank you too. We're out of time. I want to thank everyone I want to thank Rafael. I want to thank all our listeners at Modern Era Warriors. Again, it's important for me to bring what we do, integrated warrior training, all those great aspects, performance coaching, reality-based self-defense, firearm shooting, grappling, striking, nutrition, yoga, Pilates, etc. Things that we do to make up that integrated warrior. Rafael is a warrior. So thank you, Rafael. Share this with your friends and your family, please. Visit our website, get on our social media, come to some live training with us. Until our next podcast, right? I finish all our online programming on our online university with Train Hard, Train Smart, Train Safe, Train Real, and Train for Life. Rafael, I'll ask you to stand for a minute. Thank you very much, everybody. Until next time.
Have a good day.